So there's a lot of talk in the news about the real estate agents who are realtors and their commission. Most realtors love what they do, and they continue to do it because they love helping people. But there's a huge misconception on what they do and how much they get paid. It's not a secret, so let's walk through it. A realtor does not get paid an hourly wage or a salary. They only get paid if they sell a home or if they find a buyer to purchase a home, and it actually closes in escrow. So they can only get paid by the broker once a property sells. As an agent, you can work with someone, for days, weeks, months, or years with no guarantee of a sale ever happening. So essentially, you wake up each day as a realtor and you're unemployed. You go on a job interview because you're constantly asking for business and you're constantly getting rejected. Realtors dedicate their time away from their family. They, have to pay for babysitters. They miss dinners. They work almost all weekends and they rarely take vacations. And if they're on vacation, they're working anyway. So it's a 24/7 job, but they love it. It's something about, selling real estate that these agents love. They love helping people, but you don't get paid unless you close a home. So let's get into, broker splits and fees. So you're a realtor, you work for a broker, so they're going to get a percentage of your pay. You also have to pay your MLS fees, your NAR fees, any local association fees. Realtors have errors and omissions insurance that they have to pay. Sometimes their auto insurance is higher because they're using their car for work. They have to pay self-employment tax, state licensing fees, advertising fees, showing service fees. They have website fees. And if they have showing partners, if they have multiple showings at one time, they're paying partners to bring their clients out. Regardless if you buy it or not, they're still paying someone to go do that for them. They might also have an assistant called the transaction coordinator where they pay. They have to pay for their yard signs. You have to get photographers, videographers, you have office supplies, business cards, property flyers. You get the idea. Electronic lock boxes have to be set up. They have to continually do their real estate education and pay for that every year. And if there's ever any legal issues with a sale, they may incur legal fees. So obviously there's a lot going on in terms of what these agents actually make after all these fees. And don't forget, they're self-employed, so they have to pay for their own health insurance. They do not have insurance through their brokerage company because they're an independent contractor. So once they pay all those fees, then obviously they make a commission. But in the whole year, like say totality of a year, they do have a lot of expenses that they're paying out. So now what do? Let's start with the listing side. So inputting all the property listing information into the MLS can take an hour to 2 hours because everything has to be as accurate as possible. Then they create the virtual tour page, verify any listing material on the third-party data websites. They have the listing proofread, and then they're going to create property flyers typically to be put out at the showings. They're going to have any extra keys made to put in the lockbox if the lockbox is there on the home. And obviously they'll need a set as well if they come to meet the agents. They'll set up all of the showings for you, and they can also host any open houses on the weekends if that is able to be done. They're going to help the owners coordinate the showings to where that it meets their needs. Because again, you as a seller may have certain time frames where you just can't have the house being shown. And you're going to make sure that they know that. They're going to gather feedback if they can after showings. They usually ask for it. Some agents don't return any feedback, but if they do, they'll give you feedback. They're going to keep track of the showing activity to keep you updated on how many showings you had, because let's say you start out and you have 30 showings, but then after a month, they're maybe showing it one time a week and it's not selling. You may need to adjust the price, or there may need to be something going on in a conversation to talk about why it hasn't gone under contract. They'll update the MLS as necessary if you do any price reductions. They'll schedule weekly update calls with the seller to let them know how things are going. And they can also prepare a net sheet for all offers to kind of show you what commission will be paid, if you have to pay any real estate taxes, if there's attorney fees, survey fees. So they kind of walk you through what you're going to net out after you pay off your loan. They'll present all offers to you for you to review. And in multiple offer situations, they can explain if certain financing is better than other financing, why you might take an offer that maybe it's $2,000 less, but it's a stronger offer because they have like 40% down versus a buyer who might only have 3% down that's willing to pay $2,000 more. Sometimes it's better to take the lower offer with the stronger down payment, and they'll explain all that to you. They'll obtain the pre-approval letters as well from the buyer's agent, and they'll examine the buyer's qualifications by looking at their pre-approval and the offer to make sure it all adds up. They'll also work with you to negotiate the offers, and then once under contract, they send it to the title company and open up escrow and give instructions to the buyer on how the earnest money has to be delivered. And in most cases, there'll be 2 deposits, an initial deposit and then a final deposit. Then they have to get everything signed. The buyer has to get a copy of everything. The seller has to get a copy. The lender has to get a copy. They have to update the property status in the MLS. They have to deliver copies of all the contracts, all the addendums, earnest money to title company, to all the lawyers if they're involved, and to the buyer and seller if required. They have to keep a whole set of copies on file at their office. I think it's 3 to 5 years depending. And they coordinate all the inspections with the buyers and the sellers, because inspections can take 2 to 3 hours being at the home. They'll explain the buyer's inspection objections to the sellers, like if there's anything that gets pointed out, if they want something repaired, if they want a credit, that all gets done during that time. And they try to resolve all seller inspection issues. Maybe they'll agree to repair some things. Maybe they'll agree to get a seller credit. They'll walk you through those options, okay? And then they'll also meet the appraiser at the property once you get through the inspection. Then the appraisal could be an issue. Is the appraiser coming in too low? Is there any issues on the appraisal that called out repairs that need to be done because the property's not meeting the standards required to close on the loan? So they're going to walk the sellers through all of that and any issues with the appraisal, and they'll negotiate anything that's unsatisfactory. Like if there is a cure on the appraisal for a repair, they'll see if you can do it or if it can just be done with an escrow holdback. They also have to confirm once the file is clear to close that your financing's done. They help with coordinating the times and locations. They have to verify that the title company has all documents and remind the sellers to transfer all utilities. And we also have to make sure that the realtor does the final walkthrough, which is done the day before or the day of closing. They also typically attend the closing with their buyers to help explain anything. They make sure they get the keys, garage door opener, any security codes. There's so much that goes into it. It's kind of crazy. We're getting towards the end of what they do, but you can see they're resolving issues. They're on call 24/7. And once they go to closing with the buyer, they're there too as well, making sure that all the paperwork gets done. Closing figures are good. They confirm repairs have been paid if necessary. Any last minute issues that come up, because they always come up, they're, working on. They, again, are with you at closing. Then typically, once it closes, they'll go remove their lockbox. They'll make sure that the buyers have the keys. They change the status in the MLS to sold. So that kind of closes everything out. They bring the package back to their brokerage company so that they can file the closed sale. So that's just the seller side that we just went through. And someone said, I'll just get an attorney. I don't need a realtor. Well, an attorney would charge by the hour. And I just went through 90 points of what a realtor does. I can't imagine what an attorney fee would be to do what a realtor does. It would cost way more to have an attorney do this versus having a realtor do it. Number one, an attorney's not going to be working 24/7. They're going to have set office hours. They're not going to be going anywhere with you to home inspections. They're not going to be holding your hand. They're not going to be taking calls on the weekend. It's just a different environment. Realtors are valuable. Yes, certain people can say, oh, I sold my house on my own, went great. But is it really true? I mean, I always say that because I'm a mortgage person and I always listen to people puffing about their rates that they have. And it's amazing when I say, oh, hey, send me your mortgage statement. We'll check it out and do an analysis. And the rate is never really what they said it was. They were like puffing, bragging that they had this low rate that they didn't really have. So again, people puff a lot. Oh, I did this on my own. It's so easy. It's not. Trust me, it's not. And if things go south and you're trying to sell a home and you don't get it sold, what did that do for you? How much is your time worth? That's a question you have to ask yourself as well. So now the next thing we're going to discuss is the buyer's side. Remember, I'm here for all your mortgage needs. While I do renovation lending, I also do move-in ready. So if you're unsure whether you want to get a fixer-upper or a move-in ready, I can handle both. So please subscribe to my YouTube channel for more news, market updates, and opportunities to save money.